We're going to go on to talk about the story of Volkswagen, something that's been discussed much of this week. Of course, we've been broadcasting our programmes from New York over the last couple of days around those global goals. So this is the first opportunity we've got to discuss it on World Have Your Say. And the big development in the story today is that the German Transport Minister a little bit earlier on said that Volkswagen has admitted using the same fake emissions test in Europe as it used to falsify results in the United States. And this all began just before the weekend when the company said it had used software in the US to provide false emission test results. So the cars gave one reading when they were being tested, but actually emitted rather more when they were being driven around. We've got a few people to help us discuss this and talk about the trust that they have in the company, whether they would indeed buy a Volkswagen again or be encouraged to buy one now if they haven't before. We can speak to Carl Thacker, who's from the south of England, who's the founder of a website called Rusting Volkswagen. And Carl, just briefly explain what that website is.
Yeah, I've had a problem with a Volkswagen Passat, which was bought nearly new. It's about 6 months old, and it had corrosion, and the warranty process trying to get items sorted was been very, very difficult. The dealerships just didn't want to process the claims, and Volkswagen has done everything in its utmost to not do the work.
OK, so it's a sort of consumer activism website that you run. Good to have you with us. And it's worth saying at this point, by the way, that we have called Volkswagen to get a representative onto this programme, but not been able to thus far. If they do get back to us, we will, of course, let you know. In front of me in the studio here in London is Jacqueline Young of the lawyers Slater and Gordon. And you've been involved in a suit against VW, Jacqueline, which we'll talk about in a moment. But first of all, let's speak to David, who's live with us from Armenia, I think. David, welcome to the programme. And I understand you're a fan of Volkswagen. So has this week changed anything for you?
Hello from Yerevan, hello from Armenia. And of course, what happened with Volkswagen in US, it's terrible, and everybody who is guilty must be punished, and the company must be fined. But I have to say that I have always trusted German car makers the most, and I drive now a Volkswagen for 5 years now, and I'm really happy with my car because it's an affordable car for me. It's affordable to keep, for the maintenance, for the spare parts. I don't spend much for the car service. And as for emissions, many people would know that many cars in Armenia shifted from petrol to CNG, compressed natural gas systems. So they reduced emissions from their cars. And I've always trusted Volkswagen, and I think that after this scandal, my trust, I think, will not be broken.
Carl, why don't you talk to David? I don't know whether your view has changed at all this week, 'cause it sounded like you had some issues with them before, it's fair to say.
Yeah, I mean, I don't get me wrong. I think they got a very good product. It's a very comfortable car, but I've been dogged with injector problems. On the website, I get a lot of feedback from people who have to pay the repair costs for the dual mass flywheels breaking on the diesel vehicles within the whole product range of Volkswagen. And that's like £2,500 a time. The other main issue is with the DSG gearboxes having problems with Metatronics. Again, that's another £2,000 bill. So they're becoming very, very expensive to run and maintain, and very unreliable. And mine's used for business, and you need it to get you to work or to a customer, and it doesn't do what it's supposed to do. It used to do that, but unfortunately, I don't think they have the customer care anymore.
OK, well, let's bring in John, who's in Roanoke, Virginia, live with us on World Have Your Say. John, welcome to the programme. Tell us your take on this. You, I believe, have a Volkswagen products in your drive as well. Would you buy another one?
Yes, I actually do not own a Volkswagen itself, but I have an Audi, which is a Volkswagen product. And, with all the news that has been coming out, I still would, at this point, consider buying another Volkswagen product, just because I don't know that we have seen all the information come out to us. And so I'm going to wait to, pass judgment until future time.
Jacqueline, come in here because we've not heard from you yet, and
Hello.
you've heard different views there from people who have driven Volkswagen's cars. Just give us your take on this story as it is at the moment.
Right. Well, obviously, yesterday it was a US problem. 500,000 US cars have been recalled for test faking. Today we hear it's a European issue. Whether it's a UK problem or not, we still don't know. But it is quite astonishing that Volkswagen have come out and said we actively have been systematically seeking to rig the tests. I think that kind of knocks people's confidence in the brand. It's interesting to hear that some of your listeners still feel quite comfortable with the brand. But obviously the share price for Volkswagen has absolutely tanked. I think they've written off sort of $19 billion in the last 36 hours. So clearly there is an insecurity that the product is, the brand that we all thought it was.
Yeah, go ahead. Who wants to come in there?
What I was going to say to you is Volkswagen have been very, very clever with their marketing, saying that they produce a quality vehicle, and they don't do that anymore. I find that the reliability has been atrocious. My personal Volkswagen, I had to take Volkswagen to court. It was settled out of court, but I had to have 4 new doors, new bonnet, and new tailgate to my Passat because it's rusting. Volkswagen said that was a one-off. I checked 20 cars and found 19 other cars to be rusty. And every time I see a VW Passat, I look at them, and most of them have rust on them. Yet Volkswagen will deny that as a problem or an issue. And
it's worth saying again, we have invited Volkswagen or a representative from the company to come on to the programme to join this conversation. Let's speak to another couple of people who have driven the cars. David is with us from Argyle in Texas. We'll go to Massachusetts in a moment as well. David, go ahead and give us your experience and whether your mind has been changed this week.
Well, my mind has definitely been changed, but it was in a process of being changed for the last couple of months. I've had the car about 10 months. It's a Volkswagen Passat TDI. And the first problem I had was an acceleration issue. We stopped, my wife and son and I stopped at a stop sign. And when the traffic cleared, I started across the intersection. I got about halfway across the intersection, and the car would not accelerate. I pressed the accelerator all the way to the floor, and the RPM would not come up. It would not move. And we were just getting really close to being broadsided by another vehicle. And after, 7, 8, 10 seconds, I got it to go in reverse and got it to move back, and we got out of the vehicle's way. So I took it to the dealership and told them that what happened. And they said, well, we've not had any reports like that. And they said, do you mind if we drive it for a day or two? And I said, sure, I want you to, because I almost had my whole family killed in the car. So they kept it a couple of days. I went back to get it. And one of the sales service people told me, said, one of our mechanics drove it, and it happened to him once where it wouldn't accelerate. This was just a regular service agent. So the manager walks in and says, oh, we couldn't get it to do that. We couldn't duplicate your complaint. Well, I know he was lying.
Well, we don't know, of course, and he's not here to defend himself, David, but we hear the story that you're telling, and I'm wondering, actually, and this is something to address through this conversation, is whether we were talking about any other brand of car, whether we could find people who also have similar stories of complaints against a particular motor manufacturer, because one thing people are discussing is whether actually this one company has been found to be doing this. I wonder whether others may in future. We'll talk about that in a second, because I want to bring in Stephen from Massachusetts as well. Marshfield, Massachusetts, I think you are, Stephen. Welcome to the programme. Your story is what, Stephen? I don't think his line is there anymore, I'm afraid. The phone line to Stephen has dropped. Jacqueline, you are involved in this case against one company, but are there other companies?
Well, there isn't a case yet.
Right, okay.
I'm watching the news unfold, and I'm being inundated by clients who own, in the UK, who own diesel VW vehicles, saying, "Gosh, is this affecting me? What am I to do?"
So there could be a suit if
we have to wait and see. I mean, it's ever evolving. As I said yesterday, it was just America. Today, this morning, the transport minister in Germany has confirmed that European cars will have this testing software. We've got to actually wait to see. It's clear it's being investigated thoroughly by the German authorities. Our own transport minister has been trying to get the European Commission to ferociously look into it. We just have to wait and see. But you're quite right in saying it might not just be a problem isolated to Volkswagen. It could be endemic in the whole car manufacturing industry.
And you know, it's an extremely popular car maker, second largest car maker in the world. They're so popular. If they're so bad, I mean, it can't be something that many people have noticed if they're buying so many of them.
But I don't think it's about the car. Well, certainly this issue is not about the car being bad or not being bad. It's simply, quite a shocking confession saying we have sought to cheat the emissions testing system by fitting this software.
I'll bring in Carl in a moment because I've got Stephen back in Massachusetts. Stephen, go ahead and tell us what your perspective is on this.
Well, I really like the car that I bought. I only wish that it had performed as promised. My biggest concern now is my investment in this automobile. It was quite pricey. I bought something that will have no resale value now.
Oh, because this story will affect the value of the car when you may want to sell it on to the next owner.
Yes. And I'm quite concerned that even if Volkswagen should fix the emission problems, would I still get the same performance and gas mileage? So I'm really concerned about how Volkswagen will make me whole on this deal.
John in Virginia, do you want to have a chat to Stephen?
Yeah, I mean, Stephen, that's a very legitimate concern, but I still feel like, we should probably wait until, see what the actual fix is going to do to the car, to the performance of the car. I think a lot of people are kind of making just a slightly knee-jerk reaction in terms of, from everything that they're hearing via media, social media, whatever it may be. But I think, especially as an owner, you got to see, what is the fix going to do to the actual performance of the car?
Well, I agree with you. It's early days as far as what the remedies that the company will offer it. But there's been very little information about what the Volkswagen Corporation is going to do to make their customers happy. There's been a tremendous amount of news about what the government is going to do to the Volkswagen, but not much about how they're going to take care of their customers. And I agree with you, the fix might not be as poisonous as I imagine it to be, but I can't see any way that I will get 45 miles to the gallon after they change the computers out.
Yeah, may I join again?
You may, please go ahead.
Yeah, I think the point is that the Volkswagen is not the only car maker which had this kind of problem. We remember several years ago that Japan car makers had big problems with their brakes, and thousands of cars were called back and fixed in the factory. So and many people maybe even don't remember about that. This was a scandal, of course, and the car maker has to take care about the customers and the brand image and shares, of course. But I think that this is, mechanics, this is engines, and this is computers. That might be a small mistake or a small programming issue that caused this big problem.
Yeah, you're talking about the Toyota recall there, aren't you? 1.75 million
Toyota,
vehicles. The October last year, that was about a year ago, actually, that story was breaking. I'm just wondering, part of this, I suppose, is about how cars in 2015 do contain a lot of software. They're perhaps not as mechanical as they used to be. David in Argyle, Texas, do you feel like you understand your car as much as you used to?
Well, basically, yes. I'm not an engineer, but I understand it at what most people, at a level that most people purchase a vehicle would understand it. And the concern I have, many concerns about the Passat at this point, but one is the resale value and my trust in Volkswagen. If the CEO resigned, they obviously knew that they have a problem. So now I'm supposed to trust them, and I personally don't want the vehicle anymore because I have no confidence in Volkswagen. I think that they consciously made the decision for monetary purposes to do what they did in breaking the market. And I don't think we have anything to sell anymore. I think Volkswagen should take the vehicle back. I'd be happy to deliver it to them today, and let them discount for the miles I've driven it. But I have no confidence, and I have no confidence that they're going to be able to come back with a fix that will give me the same power, the same vehicle, and the same resale value that when I spent the $30,000+ buying it, I thought I would get. And I don't think it's a knee-jerk reaction. There is a real problem. And those who don't understand that just don't get it, because there is.
Okay, well, thanks very much indeed to all of you for talking to us about that. Carl in Sussex, Jacqueline was in the studio with us, David in Texas, David in Armenia. He drives his Volkswagen around Yerevan, John in Roanoke, Virginia. And just as we finish that conversation, the Reuters news agency comes up with this news about Volkswagen, and it says that their supervisory board will pick the head of the sports car maker Porsche as its next chief executive to succeed Martin Winterkorn, who resigned on Wednesday. That's according to a source familiar with the matter speaking to the Reuters news agency. That's certainly been the speculation in German newspapers as well, that Matthias Müller would take over as the CEO. So we'll keep an eye on that aspect of the story. I'm reading here as well that VW is setting aside something like $6.5 billion to cover the costs of this scandal. So not an insignificant amount of money, is it? And if you do have any more experiences you want to share, get in touch with us. The hashtag is WHYS on Twitter.